Aku record. Aku record ini.
Udah,
Udah record kah?
Udah.
udah.
Right, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Right, so in this occasion, we will present our presentation about research, qualitative research, and there are me as a moderator, and then my friends.
Veronica Anggraini.
And Jennifer Chaimor.
So we will start now. All right. 5 types of qualitative research. And the first one is study case. And I choose the title of about lack of interest in reading children in elementary school. And then what is study case? All right. So study case is a research that approach that is used to generate an in-depth, multi-phase understanding comprehension complex issues in its real-life context. And it is an established research design that is used extensively and in a wide variety of disciplines, particularly and in social science. All right. So the third is one of the important skills of language is reading, and it is a basic tool of learning in whether formal or informal. Reading is a receptive skill that involves the ability to meaningfully interpret or decode written or graphic symbol of language. All right, so we have 6 steps to conducting data study case. And the first one is determine the research question and carefully define it. And then choose the case and state how data is to be created and which techniques for analyze you'll be using. And then prepare to collect the data, and then collect data in the file, and then analyze the data, and last is prepare your report. And for the next is a technique used to collect data for case studies. All right, so we have 5 technique, that is personal interviews, that is personal interviews that are one of the most used types of interviews, where the questions are asked personally directly to the respondent. And then there is direct observation, that is research is the observed recording what he or she is watching. And then psychomotoric test. Psychomotoric testing is used to create measures that assess worker, supervisor, and organizational experience and behavior. And then archival records, that is research that involves searching for and extracting information and evidence from original archives. And then we have 2 basic techniques of data analysis. And the first step is clearly states the research objectives and hypotheses, and then identifies the data to be used, and then inclusion and exclusion criteria, and then clearly states the research variables, and then states statistical test hypothesis and the software for statistical analysis. And the last is including cell tables. And how to write the techniques of drawing the conclusion. The first one is restate your research topic, and then restate the thesis, and then summarize the main points. And the next is state the significance or result, and then conclude your talks. All right. So these are the resources that I'll take it. And then number 2, it is about ethnography. And I choose the title about positive impact of rewarding students to learn English in classroom. So what is ethnography? Ethnography is simple state, the study of people in their own environment through the use of method such as participant observation and face-to-face interview. And then the theories or the background on my title is student achievement is often attributed to a lack of motivation, and rewards are given in a attempt to increase the vital student motivation. When rewards are given, children don't perceive themselves in control of learning. So they approach and complete tasks differently than when rewards are not given. And their work is judged as less creative. And then step of conducting the research. The first one is determine the idea, and then formulate the research questions, and then determine the research location, and then determine the ethnography research type, and then seek approval, and then conduct the ethnographic research, and then analyze the collected data. And the last one is making a conclusion. All right. So the technique of collecting the data. The first one is passive observation, and then contextual interview, and then archival research. And plan the techniques of data analysis. From the answer of questionnaire and from the interview as well, I will sort based on pros and cons related to the mentor giving reward, and also sort between students answer and teachers answer. And then how to think of drawing the conclusion. The conclusion from the observations I made is show giving this reward will have a very positive impact on student English in Classroom. So readers can get advice by reading this observation. And this is the resources. And for the next presenter will be presented by Jennifer Chaimor. Jennifer, time is yours.
All right, Anna. Erwana. The next slide is narrative research. What is narrative research? Narrative research is a part of human science and describe the process of collecting and analyzing stories people are telling about their experience. And in narrative research, I choose title of narrative research is Learning English Through Story. All right. Since childhood, we are familiar with the story. Story can be found everywhere in magazine, newspaper, television, and so on. Even we ourselves can be the source of the story. There are many things that can be expressed through a story. Through story, many people more easily grasp a meaning. English lessons are certainly easier to understand with story. Interesting story make listen fun, easy to remember, and can develop the immediate imagination of those who read or hear them. All right. The next slide is step to conduct data. Number 1 is identify a problem or phenomenon to explore. Number 2 is select one or more participants to study. Number 3 is collect the story from that participant. Number 4 is the story or retell the individual's story. Number 5 is collaborate with the participant or storyteller. Number 6 is write a story about the participant experience. Number 7 is validate the report accuracy. Next slide, please. All right, the next slide is technique of collecting the data and how. Number 1 is interview. Interview constitute probably the most common and popular qualitative data collection technique. It normally involves a dialogue with the research, setting the agenda and asking questions, and the interview being cast in the role of respondent. All right, number 2 is survey. Survey are physical or digital questionnaire that gather both qualitative and quantitative data from subject. One situation in which you might conduct a survey is gathering attend feedback after an event. This can provide a sense of what attendants enjoy, what they wish was different, and areas you can improve or save money on during your next event for a similar audience. Number 3 is observation. Observation, people interacting with your website or product can be useful for data collection because of the candor it offers. If your user experience is confusing or difficult, you can witness it in real time. All right, and number 4 is document and record. Document and record based data collection make use of existing data for gathering information. This is a secondary data collection method where you don't have to spend time researching on your own, as a major part of the research has been recorded. You don't have to create a list of questions as there is no such demand. Financial and attendance record are an example of this method. Number 5 is focus group. Focus group fall in the qualitative data collection category. This kind of research involves a group of individuals that provide feedback and answer to the open question asked to them. Focus group can be seen as a combination of interview, survey, and observation. The main objective of such a data collection method is to gather collective opinion rather than individual. The organizer can ask open-ended question like, what was your favorite feature of the product, or similar question. The group discuss among themselves and puts forward shared opinion. All right, next is oral history. As its name suggests, oral history can be defined as the collection, preservation, and interpretation of historical data that were based on the experience and talk of people who were part of the particular event. Oral stories are mainly based on a single phenomenon or event. And the last is journal. A journal is a scholarly publication containing articles written by researchers, professors, and other experts. Journal focus on a specific discipline or field of study. All right. Next slide, please, Wana. Right. The next slide is technique of data analysis. In number 1 is make a description of the theme written in the story. Number 2 is collect description of event and then arrange them into stories using storyline. Number 3 is data must be collected in the form of interview transcript. Next slide, please, Wana. All right, and then last is technique of drawing the conclusion. Everyone is review all the information state about the person, setting, or event. Next, look for any fact or the details that are not stat but inferred. Number 3 is analyze the information and decide on the next logical step or assumption. Number 4 is the reader come up with a conclusion based on the situation in text. All right. The next topic is Feren.
Okay. Now I want to tell you about the grounded theory. Grounded theory is a research that starts from an existing theory, then direct research conduct observation and interview directly on the ground to test the truth of the previous theory. In carrying out this research, researchers first study the theory to be studied. Next, the researchers cross-check directly on the ground. When the research has reached the field, the research will ignore the exciting theory because the research must objectively see the result of the data found in the field. It could also be that the result of the study will be different from the previous theory because the data on the ground is dynamic or change over time. Next. And the title of the research is Listening Strategy Analysis Using Top-Down Methods. Next. First is background. Listening is the most commonly used language skill as it requires 40 until 50% of the time spent on communication. By River in Gilman and Moody, 1984 on page 331, quote in Vandergrift 2002. Obviously, listening plays an important role in the classroom as a major learning medium at all stages. Long before, listening was considered a passive skill along with reading. However, modern research show that listening is a goal-oriented activity requiring a lot of effort and mental strategy. By Thornbury, 2006, 123. The research focused on developing the top-down processing skill of a university student. This choice is due to my teaching experience in the non-English speaking country of Armenia, where listening in the classroom is considered a passive skill related to strengthening language input. About 85% of the listening class is Armenia course book instruct learner to listen to every word in the text and memorize a lot of information. This type of activity reduces learners' motivation as their success is measured by the correct number of response. They profit and Brown as shown by the research give them practice in listening but fail to teach the skill themselves. By Brown, 1986 on page 286, field 1998. Next. Step to conduct research, grounded theory. First is determine an idea. On this method, I will do research on how to use top-down strategy on listening skill, but utilizing background knowledge about a topic, situation, or context, text type, and language. This background knowledge active a set of expectation that can help listeners to interpret what is being heard and anticipate what is to come next. A top-down strategy consists of listening to the main idea, predicting, drawing conclusion, and summarizing. And the second is compiling research question. After determining the idea of or them of the research, then I will compile some question about the formulation of the problem about the research. First is what are the parts including in the background of the top-down strategy method? And second is why is the background of this strategy so important for this top-down strategy? Third is how can we predict what we hear using this method? And four, how do you understand your accent when you listen? And five is what are the advantages and disadvantages of using top-down strategy methods? And three is determine the location of the research. In determining in the location of study, I will conduct research online by making a questionnaire target at the college level by interview several students. And fourth is determine the type of research method. First is interaction. In this research method, I will interact with the subject to build an approach with the subject by giving some question and opinions. They in doing listening and learning and are safe. In this method, I will save the result of the interview to the subject as evidence and comparison from the point of view of each individual. Five is asking for approval. Of course, in this case, I first ask to approval from the source or subject, whether willing to be interviewed and give his opinion or not, so that there will be no completion from both parties, but in terms of interview and source. And six is analyze and collect data. After creating questionnaire and conducting interview with various source or subject, then I will collect the data and analyze some of the best result from the interview and fill out the questionnaire. And the last is conclusion. Then I will make conclusion from the various result of the interview or fill out the questionnaire and the questionnaire. And the next slide, Wana. And three is the technique for collecting data and how to explain. Since I use online research methods, I try to contact some of the intended source. Then I will ask for their approval in advance to be able to do an interview or questionnaire filling. After that, when they are willing and have finished filling out the questionnaire, I will collect data and analyze result of the questionnaire. Four is writing a technique of drawing conclusion. I will conclude that the research using the grounded theory method, which I did was in accordance with what I learned and summarized by providing a reformation of the initial point and topic of analysis of listening strategy using top-down method. Hopefully, reader can understand about what is meant by the top-down strategy method on listening skills. Next, and the last is search of the grounded theory. And next, about the phenomenology methods. Like a qualitative research method, phenomenology approach is an approach where research make observation of participants to reveal to the concept or phenomenon of experience that occurs in the life of the participant. This method of phenomenological approach aim to know in depth about the life journey of the subject being studied. In other words, the phenomenological approach aims to interpret participant social action as meaningful. Next. And four methods of the title is four methods of learning English. Next. First is background. in the process teaching of English, there are some important terms that are quite confusing for teacher, namely approach, method, and technique. These terms are something misunderstood or misinterpreted. So what exactly the meaning of approach, method, and technique more than 5 decades ago by Edward Anthony 1963. And Anthony says at 100
Terus kalau yang waktu
1963 describe this term with a definition that
oh,
is
sa
quite
kena kerudung nyamuk sa.
to understand at the time. The approach is placed in the first level of the 3 elements of early in English education. In his view, the approach is a group of hypotheses related to the type of learning and teaching of language. Example of teaching approach, namely GTM or grammar translation method, and direct methods, reading methods, and EALM atau or audiolingual methods, communicative approach, and so on. Next. And step to conduct research of phenomenology is determine an idea. In this idea, I will do research on 4 models of English learning, the use of proper English language, teaching methods can help students achieve the best achievement. Conversely, a student can feel bored learning English if the method used is less effective. And the second is completing research question. After determining the idea or theme of the research, then I will compile some question about the formulation of the problem about the research. First is what are types of English learning methods? And 2, how to overcome difficult when learning English? And 3, what is the principle of English learning reaction? And 4, how to support system for English learning? 3 is determine the location of the research, like a same with the grounded theory. I using the during questionnaire, like interview with the online like questionnaire target at the college level by interviewing several students. And for the determine the type of research methods is the same with the grounded theory, like interaction and archive. Asking for approval, analyze and collect data, and conclusion. Then I will make conclusion from the various research of the interview or fill out the questionnaire. Next. And the next is 3 technique for collecting data and how to explain. Since I use online research methods, I try to contact some of the intended source, then I will ask for their approval in advance to be able to do an interview or questionnaire filling. After that, when they are willing and have finished filling out the questionnaire, I will collect data and analyze the result of the questionnaire. Next. And 4 is writing a technique of drawing conclusion. I will conclude that the research use phenomenological methods, which I do according to what I learned and summarize by reaffirming the initial points and topic for methods of learning English. Hopefully, reader can understand about what is meant by 4 methods of learning English. And the last is search of the phenomenology research. I think that's all for me, and thank you.
All right, thank you for your attention, guys. So we have to present our presentations today, and then we now in the end of our presentation. So thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.